Hello and welcome to another edition of OLGC Classics, coming to you from the Our Lady of Good Counsel Video Vault. Today, we go back to the year 2017, January, and it's the first homily, week one of our rerouting program that we launched. Not many people know this, but when it was originally planned, rerouting was supposed to last 89 weeks. However, after some discussions and logistic discussions, we realized, let's make it shorter and manageable. So a 13-week program was decided on, and what's great about rerouting is that it has been used by parishes around the country and around the world. But this is how it all began. In January of 2017, Father John Riccardo gave the first rerouting homily, and it's called, Where Are We Going?
Buongiorno a tutti e buona domenica. Questo è un giorno molto importante per noi qui alla parrocchia di OLGC, perché noi oggi cominciamo questo nuovo inizio, si chiama rerouting. Che cos'è rerouting? Come mai rerouting? Cosa vuol dire rerouting? Rerouting ha come il motivo di aiutarci di conoscere Gesù di più, ma non soltanto di conoscere Gesù, ma più importante di seguire Gesù, di amare Gesù, di abbandonare noi stessi a Gesù. Questi sono i motivi. Anybody lost right about now? You should see the looks on your faces, right? Although, to be honest, and don't get me wrong here, the looks on your faces right now aren't all that different than the looks on your faces many Sundays. What in the world is that guy up there talking about? Isn't that a common experience that we have when we come to Mass? Somebody up here in some robes is saying some things, and we don't seem to get it. It's like speaking another language. And we just sit there and we end up asking ourselves, what am I doing here? Why did I even bother to come? Do me a favor, please. If you haven't already, please grab your bulletin and open it up. That's right. Priest actually wants you to read the bulletin during the homily. Actually, not read it, to use it. You'll notice there's something different starting this week. Not just the cover, but on the inside, I want to direct your attention to two pages. It's in the very center, pages 10 and 11. On page 10, you'll see an outline of more or less this homily that I'm going to give. On page 11, the facing page, you'll see more or less a blank page with a word in the top that says notes. Wonder why that's there. So I'd like to invite you all to take out a pen or a pencil, steal one of your kids' crayons or magic markers. And I'd like you to answer a question. No one's going to collect this, no one's going to see it, but you or anybody that you might choose to show it. So be honest with yourself. Answer this question for me, actually for yourself. Why did I come today? That's the question. Why did I come today? With what expectations have I arrived? Take a moment. Think about that. Put something down. Maybe the honest answer is, I have no idea. That's okay. That's the honest answer. When I was younger, if I even bothered to go to church, which wasn't very often, if somebody would have asked me that question, my answer probably would have been something like this. Well, I'm here because, I'm Catholic. This is what we do. We go to church on Sundays. Yeah, okay, right. Why? I have no idea. I think a miracle happens every Sunday in every Catholic church, virtually all over the world, at least in Western culture, and it's not the miracle that you're probably thinking of. Don't hear anything of what I'm about to say as any kind of an accusation or a judgment. It's not at all what it's intended to be. It's just more like a simple acknowledgement of reality. It's certainly an acknowledgement of the reality that was my life for a long time. Here's the miracle. At every Mass, everywhere in the Western world, there are people who arrive late on purpose. They don't sing. They don't respond. They don't read the Bible, and they have no intention of doing so. They don't listen to the homily. Usually, when someone else is preaching and I'm celebrating Mass, like Father Pierre today, I sit there and I close my eyes, not so I can take a nap, but so that I can be free from distractions, kind of listen to who's preaching and listen to the Lord at the same time. A couple weeks ago, when Deacon Dave was preaching, I felt like the Lord said, I want you to open your eyes and I want you to watch. I want you to look. Here's what I saw. Because when you stand here, you see everything. You should come up here sometime. You can't hide. So here's what I see. I see a young woman sitting right there who I know quite well. She's in college. She's not there now, so don't worry. Soon as Deacon Dave kissed the book of the Gospels and we all said, praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, she whips out her phone. Now, maybe she was taking notes, but I don't think so. Looked like she was texting, doing her email, shopping on Amazon. Who knows, right? Another guy over there, he just kind of gets up, kind of like you. He's walking around just stretching his legs. Older gentleman here, he just pulls out the bulletin, and I don't think he was taking notes. Two teenagers over by the confessionals, they just turn to each other and start talking. I don't think any of them was trying to be rude. There was no ill intent on their behalf. They just didn't think that what's happening right now was going to be of any relevance whatsoever for them. They were almost pre-programmed to think, oh, this is that time when the guy stands up, he says some things about some things that I don't understand anything about, so there's nothing for me to do. It's like filler. You know what it's like? It's like halftime at a college football game. What's the point? Now, if you got a child in the band or a cheerleader, you might stay and watch and listen. But for the rest of us, halftime, what does that mean? Get up, go get a hot dog, something cold to drink, stretch your legs, relax. It's just something that's got to be there until the guys come back out on the field for the second half. That's how a lot of us, I think it's how I approached the homily when I was sitting out there for years. It's like this ritual that has to happen, but someone's going to speak about some words that I didn't understand. They're going to be irrelevant in my life, and meanwhile, all the anxieties, all the concerns, all the worries, all the fears, all the things that are on my mind when I walked into this place with seemingly go unaddressed. Back to the miracle. At every Sunday Mass in most of the Western world, there are a number of people who are there who don't believe in the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. They don't believe a lot of things that God reveals in His Word and that His church teaches. They leave early on purpose. And if you were to ask them as they were on their way out into the parking lot, as they left Mass early, hey, do you got a personal friendship with Jesus? They might look at you and say something like this. What? No, I think you got the wrong church. We're Catholic here. What's the miracle? They're here. They come late, they don't sing, they don't respond, they don't believe in the real presence, they don't listen to the homily, they don't read the scriptures. They don't believe what the church teaches. They leave early. But they're here. You're here. I was there for years. I think that's a miracle. Why come? How many of us have said, the Mass is boring? I've said it lots of times in my life, or at least heard other people say it, right? Well, we know the Mass isn't supposed to be entertaining, but what is it supposed to be? Is it just somebody up here in some robes doing and saying some things, and we try to just listen, or are we supposed to enter into it and do and say some things with him? It's the latter, obviously, but what and how? We don't just get lost in here. We get lost out there, don't we? Isn't it true for most of us at this point in our life? We would say that we've woken up at some point and asked questions like these. Is this it? Is this all there is? What's it really all about? Why am I here? Where am I going? How do I get there? How do I find real, lasting happiness and not just fleeting moments of pleasure? What do I do now that the college football season's over? Why is there so much evil in the world? Why do so many things go wrong? What happens when I die? Anything? What's my purpose? What's my destiny? Who can I trust? Because of these experiences of being lost both here at Mass and being lost out there, these are the reasons why Father Pierre, myself, Father John the Greater, Father Prentice, Deacon Dave, we've put together this series that we've called Rerouting. It begins today, it continues for the next 13 weeks. And in these weeks that we are on journey together, we want to take a look at these questions that come to us not only when we're here at Mass, but they come to us outside when we're living our lives. Because God gives answers to these questions. He's revealed to us why we're here, where we're going, and how to get there. He's told us how to find lasting happiness and not just fleeting pleasure. He's explained to us how evil came into the world and what he's done about it. He's told us our purpose, our destiny, the ultimate reason for which we're made, and he's revealed to us why we can trust him like no other. All these things are found in his word. But let's be honest, how many of us have time to read the Bible? And maybe even more problematically for a lot of us, I don't know where to begin. It seems difficult, challenging, confusing. An image for me of coming to Mass and trying to listen attentively to the scriptures is something like this. It's kind of like going to a movie that's 3 hours long and you walked in an hour late by mistake. Nothing makes sense. Like, who are these people? What's the plot line? What's the story? And because unfortunately so few of us are familiar with the story of Scripture in its entirety, when we come to Mass, the lectionary is very difficult to follow. Just think of today. 3 readings that don't seem to have an awful lot to do with each other. Isaiah, 1 Corinthians, and John. And we sit there and we just hope that the guy who's going to come up here is going to find some way to tie them all together, make it not too long, kind of funny, something practical, get me out there to real life as quick as possible. I think the key to understanding all of Scripture is found in the first 3 chapters of Genesis. I think it's all there. It might be hidden, but I think it's all there. I think if you get Genesis 1, 2, and 3 right, you get everything right. And I think if you get Genesis 1, 2, and 3 wrong, you get everything wrong. And so in these next number of weeks, we want to take a deep dive into these chapters and those chapters that relate to them in different ways so that we can understand God's story, which is his story, which is called in our secular world history. We want to do this not only on Sunday at Mass, but we want to do it Wednesday night as well. So Wednesdays after the evening Mass, we're going to have a chance to get together and do not a repeat of what we do on Sunday, but kind of a fuller expansion of whatever the topic was. We want to do this because that way it'll allow us to have some small group discussion and some Q&A, which you can't really do during a homily, at least not most weeks. For those of you who can't come, and we know a lot of you can't, we'll tape it, both audio and video, and we'll put it on the website so that you can follow along and watch. But even if you just came on Sundays, you'll get this. We just want to encourage as many people as possible to come on Wednesdays too. I might encourage you in these first few weeks just to begin slowly, leisurely, and prayerfully reading Genesis 1, 2, and 3 so as to be prepared for what's going to begin on week 5. The long-term goal of rerouting is to help us to be in sync with the Archbishop and his vision and his hope for the Archdiocese of Detroit. What's his hope? His hope is that we would become a missionary archdiocese. But to become a missionary archdiocese, we need to become missionary parishes. In order to become missionary parishes, we have to become missionaries ourselves. And in order to become missionaries, we need to truly experience conversion, to become serious disciples of Jesus, not just in name, but in fact. And so I went to the Archbishop about a year ago, a little bit more than that now, presented this to him, asked him for his permission to do this, because I didn't want to be rogue in the Archdiocese. So I asked, can I not preach on the readings that we hear at Mass on Sunday for some extended period of time? We'll still read them, we just won't preach on them. I thought there's no way he's going to go for this. I got done, he looks at me and says, I think it's a great idea. I said, you do? He went, yeah. I went nuts. Now we got to create this. So since June, that's what we've been doing. Father Pierre, myself, Father Prentice, Deacon Dave, Father John, Mary Delpup, we've been getting together at least once a week for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours at a time just to pray, to think, to talk. We've invited people in from all over the country to hear what we're doing, and they've just given us all sorts of really helpful feedback. The goals of rerouting are 2. First, to help those of us who have not yet made a decision to live our life for another. That is to say, those of us who have not yet, for whatever reason, made a decision to live our lives for Jesus, to begin to do so. And for those of us who have already made that decision, to make a decision to surrender ever more fully to him, to be able to say just what we said in the psalm today. Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will. I will do whatever you want. If you're wondering about the title of rerouting, it comes from these little things, phones. Depending upon what map you use when you're traveling, if you plug in an address and then you take a wrong turn somehow, that's the word that comes up. Rerouting. It's a way to get your attention to say, hey, you went left when you should have gone right. And it helps you get back on the path. Because as we've been praying about this endeavor that's beginning this weekend, that's the image that the Lord gives. We're on a journey together as a parish. We're on a trip for these 14 weeks, a journey towards encountering the person of Jesus in an ever more profound way than we have before. Each week, you'll see not only an outline of the homily, but then some questions for reflection at the bottom of that page. These are questions for us to reflect on ourselves in prayer during the course of the week, maybe to talk about around the dinner table, especially if we've got children still at home. We can use them for men's fellowship or discipleship groups or whatever other gatherings that we got. And then you'll also see on the bottom of the notes page for next week. It gives you an idea of what it is to read if there's something to prepare for, whether it's a scriptural passage or several ones of those, or in this case, something from the documents of Vatican II, which we think will be helpful for us. All I'm doing this weekend is giving an introduction. It's kind of like the trailer for a movie, trying to tell you what's coming up in the weeks ahead. I've made reference a number of times over these past few weeks to the movie Hacksaw Ridge. I just saw it for the fourth time the other day with Father Prentice on Friday night. I just can't see this movie enough. I think it's the most powerful movie I've ever seen for a whole host of reasons. True story, if you haven't seen it, about a soldier who fights in World War II named Private Desmond Doss, who enlists in the army, but because of his religious convictions, refuses to touch a gun. He wants to serve on the front lines as a medic. But because of his convictions, he's considered by his commanding officer and by the other men in his company as a coward. But he is no coward. And at a certain point, both in the movie and in reality, at the Battle of Okinawa, after some incredibly intense fighting, his company retreats, leaves him there all alone. Actually, they don't leave him, he stays. He stays, and in the course of a night, he single-handedly rescues 75 men who've been left wounded on the battlefield. And every time he rescues one man, puts him on his shoulders and lowers him down to safety, he prays, "Lord, please, let me get one more. Just one more, Lord, please." And he runs back into battle, gets another guy, puts him on his shoulders, and lowers him to safety. And after he himself is lowered back and reunited with the rest of his brothers in the company, his commanding officer, who had thought him a coward, comes to see him, embarrassed, ashamed, apologetic. And he stands in front of him and he says these words, "All I saw was a skinny kid. I didn't know who you were." I think the reality is there's a lot of us here today who, in all honesty, could and can say the same thing to Jesus. I don't know who you are. And I don't know what you've done for me. And so we invite you to come along and to journey together as a parish family over these next 13 weeks. Bring a pen, a Bible, especially starting week 5, and a true spirit of openness to whatever God might want to say. Because Jesus is here, really. He's called us here, wants to speak to us. He has answers for all of the truly meaningful questions in life. In fact, he is the answer.
And that will do it for this edition of OLGC Classics. See you soon.